everyone, how are you doing? Second video in 2 weeks, you know, after a good track. Maybe then I'll post another video in 2 months. Who knows? I'm so unpredictable. Welcome to my channel. So, I think it was about a year ago, I made a video, I am autistic? Is that what it was called? It was a year ago, I can't remember. But it's one of my most viewed videos on my channel, which I really didn't expect in a million years. And I talked about me growing up with autism and about representation of autism. And that is what I'm going to write about, I think, for my dissertation next year for uni. So that should be very interesting. If you want to watch that, click here. I think, click here. If I'm wrong, I am very wrong. Hashtag sozzles. The thing is, I really hate that video because I feel like I wasn't really ready to talk about it, and I got very frustrated very quickly, and I really hated the dress. It was too small for me, but I was going out to something nice that day, and my hair wasn't done properly, and I was just such a mess, and it was really irritating. So I thought I would make a sort of follow-up video, I suppose, about what really my autism is. I say my because I will clarify that in a second. This is also another way to make a little announcement for you. Today is Friday. On Tuesday I am shooting for my short film, which I have written and I'm directing and performing in and producing. I don't know where to stop. It's a short film called Overload, and it's about my experiences with autism and the sort of tropes from other people when they speak about autism and stuff I picked up. For example, I have had people saying stuff like, oh, but I get that all the time, but I think autistic people just can't handle things, and it's other silly kind of stuff. I just wanted you to know that that was a thing that I'm doing, and I'm very excited about it. I've got a good team of people together, and we're shooting it all in one day, which should be very interesting. Ha ha! So I was diagnosed when I was 2.5. Normally autistic people are diagnosed when they're about 4.5. I know I said in the last video I said 6.5, but that's for people with Asperger's, which apparently autism is now a massive umbrella, and Asperger's is sort of not becoming a thing anymore, and it's more just under the umbrella of autism. It's what I've heard anyway. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure loads of people know better than I do, but anyway. My mum told me a story of how she was watching a home video of my older sister Julia, who's 2 years older than me, and with me, little Baba Carrie in my mother's arms, and in the home video mum asked Juliet to grab something from a worktop or something like that and bring it over. When she was about like 2 years old, and mum realised, and also my mum and dad realised that I was 2 when they were watching that video, and I wouldn't be able to do that. So they managed to get me diagnosed very early and managed to get a lot of help for me as I was growing up, and hence why people can barely tell today that I have autism, which is something a lot of people say. They say, oh, you don't look autistic. And I'm like, a lot of people say that, and it's kind of grating, but at the same time I know you're trying to be nice, so oh. My mum always talks about when I had music therapy sessions, which was provided by the NHS. So they would take me to this pianist and he'd try to get me to learn how to play the piano. I was having none of it, and I would just draw dots on a piece of paper for about an hour, and mum would have to sit there and watch me do it. So that was what it started, and then I went to this thing called the little group for during my essential alternative for nursery and reception. It was basically that, but with other autistic children, and they started bringing me into mainstream education when I was about in year 4. I don't really know ages, so sorry Americans or other people. And that's when they started to bring me into mainstream education, and then I think in year 5 I had these things called conversation classes, because I really struggled with that and I didn't really understand the art of talking to people. They would take me and 5 other kids every week in that class, and they would do like little exercises on how to maintain a conversation with people. And then in my first high school, I mean, to be perfectly honest, my first high school was absolutely shite in terms of developing me. It really didn't do much. I would have assistants in class, but really me and Sarah would just banter during maths. We would do the work, but we would just gossip for days on end. And also once a week I would have, not therapy, but I would talk about my life and my social life with a form of counsellor, and she would talk about how, like, oh, but that means you're not processing this is how you do things, and I'm like, oh right, cool. And I'm still doing that actually at university. I didn't do that whilst I was at the Brit school, just because I thought I'm a strong independent woman who don't need any therapy sessions. That's exactly what I said. But I'm doing it at uni, and actually it's really nice to just talk about my life and just let it offload at someone who's like, yeah, that might be your autism, Carrie. Maybe you should do this instead. Oh, that's so nice, thank you. So that's sort of how I've managed to develop with my autism, sort of across the years. Now I'm going to actually explain to you what my autism is. Now I say my because autism is different for each person, which not a lot of people can really get, because the sort of preconceptions with people is that autistic people just sort of yell all the time. They develop a lot slower than other people, which is the case for some people, and you know, they improve over time. But that's not really my autism. I was very fortunate that I was diagnosed early, so then I could progress into the above and beyond of adulthood. So essentially my autism is mainly sensory overload, hence why my short film is called Overload, where it's mainly within sort of social situations, mainly family occasions, where it's a very overwhelming amount of noise, and it feels like layer built on layer built on layer, just becomes a bit too like, and I'm just gonna double check. I just like to keep checking that my camera is still recording, otherwise, oh no, I just panic. So layers build on layers and layers and layers, and it kind of freaks me out a lot. And so sometimes I just have to, oh, for God's sake. So that's my sort of main struggle with autism. I also have quite a bad memory in terms of planning, and people have to remind me all the time, and it's a bit irritating for me and for other people. And also, I think conversations I still quite struggle with as well. I'm unintentionally quite self-centered, just because I think it's to do with an empathy. I'm just gonna move. I think it's to do with a sort of empathy and a lack of empathy, and the only thing you can really connect with are your own thoughts, so you just kind of talk about yourself, which not a lot of people quite appreciate. But you know, I'm getting better with that, you know, as the years go on. But that's what I kind of struggle with. I think in general, just instructions and processing information, which some people get quite annoyed by because they have to repeat themselves. The thing is, repeating yourself is actually not very helpful. So imagine my brain is here and your destination is there. You're giving me an instruction and my brain is on its way, and then suddenly it hits a brick wall, and you repeating what you're saying is just making me hit a brick wall and I'm not really understanding. Whereas if you rephrase something, you manage me to go around the brick wall and make me go to your destination. So that's sort of how you can get around people not really understanding your instructions, at least with someone with autism. At least with my autism anyway. I received a question on Twitter from Heather saying what's the balance between hiding it and expressing it. To be honest, I've been a lot more comfortable recently in terms of expressing it and being a bit more open to talk about it, because I feel like the more awareness about it, the better. But I feel like kids are cruel, kids are very, very mean. When I was younger, it was the wise decision was to hide it, because people had this preconception of what autism was. So if I told people, oh, I'm autistic, people would say, oh no, you're just taking the piss out of disabled people. I know someone who's like really disabled and you're not, you're taking the mick, and la 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 la. So I think it depends on how old you are and in terms of growing up, but I feel like there should be more education about autism and there should be more awareness. Some people can't help but express their autism, otherwise they're not really going to get through life. So I feel like the more open you feel comfortable being autistic and expressing about your autism, I feel like the better. But also I acknowledge that growing up, kids are quite shite. I'm sure there are very lovely kids out there, but there are some very horrific kids who bully people like me. all the time. I've only really become acceptive in talking about it really now, because I think whilst people are open-minded at university and they manage to grasp these kind of concepts, they'll be able to go into the world of adulthood with no preconceptions of what autism is. This is gonna be the last take, I promise. So in general, in terms of me and my autism, it's mainly to do with sensory issues and conversation issues. But I know with other people it's just in terms of listening to instructions, getting easily distracted, and difficulty with focus. I've definitely struggled with focus a lot more recently, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And in terms of expressing your autism, I think you should express as much as you're comfortable with. Don't feel like you've got to parade it to the world if you're not comfortable with it, and come to terms with your autism in your own time. I didn't really know what my autism was until like I was about, I think like early mid high school. I knew I had it, but I didn't actually know what it was until like maybe 6th form, purely because I was living my life as a person, but now I envisage, I hope that's the word, I envisage my autism as sort of like, you know, those cartoons, like those children cartoons, like Dora the Explorer, and Swipey No Swipey or whatever that is, that it's sort of my autism playing tricks on me and being difficult when it kind of would be annoying. And so in my head I'm like, autism, you. So that's sort of my way of perceiving my autism. So it's very easy for me to differentiate what's me being me, usually me, and sort of my autism kind of playing up. So I think that's really this video. If you're really interested, if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. And please leave a like, because it makes me feel loved, as you lot know. I have some ideas for this channel in the next few weeks, but if you have any other suggestions, please put them in the comments below and I will try and follow up on them. Okay, I shall see you at some other point in my life. Bye!